Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater, Run Blog Run. This is Athletics Chat number 32. You know the procedure. Stuart Weir, the charming man in the Father Christmas jacket, is in Oxford, England, the intellectual capital of the world. I, Larry Eater.
Ho, ho, ho.
There you go. Nicely done, Stuart. And this is Larry Eater. I'm in San Jose, California, the silicon chip capital. It actually used to be the prune capital of the world, and wonderful fields of strawberries that I used to grab from Japanese farmers when I would run down the little river to Alviso, Guadalupe Creek, as they called it. It went 14 miles from my high school to the lovely bay. But I've digressed, and today we've got some interesting topics. The first one, Stuart, is announcement on government funding for UK sports. So talk to us about that.
The UK government is very generous with its funding of sport, and it does it in Olympic cycles. But of course, this was a problem this year because the funding ran out in the fall of 2020, but there hadn't actually been an Olympics. So, I mean, I know, for just take one sport as an example, I know that skateboarding, the new Olympic sport, had taken on staff on contracts that expired September 2020. But of course, that was a year short of the Olympics. But the good news is that the government has this week announced that they are putting in the funding for the next 4 years through to Paris. And it's a significant sum of money. Now, a lot of the money comes from the national lottery that we have, which is sort of government run or government managed or allowed. Well, I'm not quite sure what the right word is. But anyway, so basically there is $470 million to be divided among 43 sports.
Wow.
And track and field over the next 4 years will get $29 million. And para athletics, you know, the Paralympic version, will get 12 million. The track and field, the Olympic program is down by $1 million from what it was before, and the Paras is up marginally about $250,000. So that is really good news. And as well as that, there is a fund of $88 million which funds people who are going to the Olympics and Paralympics across the sports. And we talked about this before. That means about 100 plus track and field athletes are effectively employed by British Athletics.
Wow.
On a salary, something in the region of $40,000, but it's tax-free.
Nice.
So it's a pretty decent baseline salary, given that you get your prize money and any sponsorship on top of that. But there was a fear that because our government has done so well supporting business through COVID, but by borrowing large sums of money, there was a fear that they were going to be saying, look, I'm afraid that sport has got to be cut because we ain't got the money. But the good news is that through to 2024 at least, there is the usual amount of funding going into sport.
Good. That's fantastic. We it's a little different over here. USA Track and Field signed a deal back in 2016, which started to affect the sport in 2018 with Nike, and Nike is giving them approximately $42 million a year through 2000. I thought it was 32. The issue is I'm trying to see how it's being spent, and this year I have no clue how they're doing it or how they're spending it. because while they put on some meets, they've been all of modest means. And actually, more of the meets in the U.S. are put on by entrepreneurs than by USA Track and Field, including USA Track and Field canceling the USA Outdoors for the first time in 138 years. And then also the U.S. Club Cross Country Champs, one of my favorite events, beginning of February, was just canceled this week. It looks like the U.S. Indoor Championships are still going. It looks like the NCAA Indoor Champs are still going. And it looks like the NCAA Cross Country Championships will be held on the same weekend in March as the NCAA Indoor Track. So it's very strange. But funding is a challenge. And I'm going to throw in a topic before we get to the indoor. This weekend in lovely near Phoenix, Arizona, there was a thing called the Marathon Project. It was a marathon with 40 men and 4 pacers and 48 women and 8 pacers, and they had some magnificent times. 10 men under 2 hours and 10 minutes. The winning time was 2:08:59 by Martin Hazier. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He runs for the Reebok Athletic Club. And then one of his second place was a guy over here who's known for his long hair and kind of funny social media, and he ran just over 2:09. So fantastic performances on the women's side. Sarah Hall ran 2:22 or 2:20:32. So it's another PB, 88 seconds. But people are saying that she could get Gina Castor's American record at 2:19:36. I had said that I thought she was a couple races away, and I think she's there. But the reason why events like this are going on is because it's the only way athletes are getting paid. One of the athletes that went under, an athlete under 210, that's probably about 30 grand for them. And so that's a good performance. And so most athletes get a little bit of money from the brand, and then they get performance-based things, and more athletes are getting just performance-only things. So it's a challenge over here. It's just a challenge over there. I still think one of the best things you guys have got going is the way you do that relay pool. I talked to Martin Rooney about that just a couple of weeks ago, and that's fantastic. So here's our second topic, and I'm fascinated because I just put something up about Geza Felicitas Kraus, the bronze medalist from Doha in the steeple, and the European champ in 18. She's running an indoor 2,000-meter steeplechase. So tell me what the heck this event is.
Well, I actually have seen this because they did it at Liévin in February, which ironically was the last time I went to an event. And you'll be disappointed, I know, when I tell you there's no water jump. Oh,
no. That was the thing I was looking forward to.
But basically, it's just it's a 200-meter indoor track, so it's 10 laps with barriers for them to go over. And I thought it was really quite an engaging race to watch. Because if you're a steeplechaser, obviously you either have to run flat or else you don't run at all in the indoor. So to put on a race for the steeplechasers with some obstacles to go over, I thought it worked well. It reminded me of once at Birmingham, they did 400-meter hurdles.
Yes.
Indoor. But it became a bit chaotic because with the banked track, people have lost their stride pattern and were in danger of doing carnage to themselves or to the hurdles. But I mean, funnily enough, I mentioned this to a friend of mine who is a steeplechaser, and her reply to me was, "What?" And then secondly, no water jump sounds like my kind of steeplechase.
I remember that 400 hurdles in Birmingham because I remember Felix Sanchez, the Olympic champion, literally falling down on his face at the finish line. And they did that a couple of years, and that was a lot of fun. I think those kind of events add a little innovation and keep a little fun, and it gives our friends, the steeplechasers, a little chance to try something new.
Yeah.
We had some news about the Russian ban cut. Now, what is it? The CAS is this is for the Olympics. The ban in the World Athletics is still up in the air. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Court of Arbitration for Sport has cut the Russian ban from 4 years to 2 years, meaning that they won't be able to be in the Tokyo Olympics, and they won't be in the Soccer World Cup in 2022 or the Winter Olympics 2022.
Wow.
But I mean, there was a very strange comment by the Court of Arbitration. The reduction of the ban should not be seen as any validation of Russia's conduct, but it will be. It will be.
Yes.
I mean, certainly on social media, there's been a lot of response of people saying we feel totally let down.
Yeah. No, it's just, it's interesting because I believe for the last couple of years, Thomas Bach has wanted to see the Russian problem go away because he's got NBC giving him several $1 billion, and so the second most watched country, the Russian team, is not competing, and he can only do so much with USATF, and you can only add so many trash sports. Well, I'm not a big fan of breakdancing. I'm not breakdancing is fun. I just don't think it's an Olympic sport, and if we had a choice between breakdancing and cross country, obviously, you know where I would go, but that's not my decision. But the issue is, I think the IOC wants this to go away. People's attention span is short, and broadcasters are short, and this is affecting their monetary needs. World Athletics, on the other hand, and Paralympics, they both put a line in the sand, I think, because Seb, experienced this dealing with East Germans and dealing with Russians back when he was competing. Yeah. And this hasn't gone away. I did a piece last night about the whole idea that in 1952, when the Soviet Union started competing in the Olympics, it was a battle from then on. It was the U.S. and their allies and the Soviets and their allies. And whoever won a gold medal, they always said, this, shows the superiority of the Marxist system or the democratic system. And after that, and it was also during that time that anabolic steroids and things started coming in. They started out in California with bodybuilders, but actually they started out being used in World War II for paraplegics and quadriplegics coming back from the war zones, and the Germans used them with the Waffen-SS. So they got into sport. One of the interviews that I am transcribing right now is 9 hours with Emil Zatopek from 1991. And there's this amazing story in there where Emil was close with Vladimir Kuts, the 1956 gold medalist in the 10. And Vladimir told him one time, Emil, they're giving me stuff and it makes me very sick. And Emil said, what are they giving you? And Vladimir said, well, it wasn't vitamins, So they knew they were being given some stuff. They didn't know what it was. And it was all about winning or losing. And both sides took the whole nationalism thing way past where it should be. And I don't mind people getting excited about a Brit winning or an American winning or a Russian winning or an Italian winning. That's wonderful. But when we weaponized sports, and that's the issue. And while I hate that word weaponization, we've done it in a lot of things. Hell, we've weaponized COVID right now, but sports being weaponized takes it away from, one of the greatest things that could happen this next summer is if we have a Summer Olympics, because people love that. They're inspired by the Olympics. But we also have to juggle about people getting sick, people not getting sick. And then, at a certain point, there's going to be so much pressure on Seb and his crew at World Athletics. What are they going to do? Are they going to stand up to Russia if Russia doesn't say, yeah, we did it, we're put things in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. And yeah, we knew other people did it, but that doesn't matter. We still did it. And that's the issue. And it's that, I think the Christian term is contrition. And I think they have that in the Orthodox Church in Russia.
But I mean, I think we have to make clear that it wasn't that Russia was incompetent. It wasn't that one or two rogue coaches were using dope. It was a systematic, government-led campaign where athletes could pay money and their test results would disappear, where testers were given a list of athletes. I mean, like, imagine someone coming to a U.S. Training camp and be told, right, you can test this athlete, but you can't test that one.
Yeah.
And then at other times when they would sort of when a foreign body wanted to test an athlete, they would be told the athlete is in the U.S. equivalent in Alaska and cannot be reached, but we'll make them available when they come back. And of course, they would be calculating the length of time it would take for the drugs to go out of the body system, and then they would make that athlete available for testing.
Sure.
And again, I mean, stories like how a week before a major championship, all the team would be tested, and anyone who was positive, it would be announced that they were dropping out through injury.
Yeah.
So it's such a systematic cheating that any suggestion that leniency should be permitted just isn't acceptable. And of course, it's unfair on clean Russian athletes or good Russian athletes, but equally, you know, we've talked about it before. Jenny Meadows reckons, the British 800-meter runner, reckons that she lost $150,000 in prize money and sponsorship because she didn't get her medal at the time and therefore didn't get the bonuses that went with medal performances, and got the medals years later when the people who beat her were shown to be cheats. So it's the clean athletes who suffer if we don't deal with the drug cheats.
I recall spending some time with Kathy Butler, who's now a coach. She's Canadian, represented Great Britain, and she went to the University of Wisconsin. And it's got to be 2003, perhaps. And she and I chatted for a little bit, and she told me that she lost 30 grand that year. And I said, how? She goes, the Russian athlete, it was a steeplechaser who they know had used EPO, but they had screwed up the test. So she was still, Grigorieva, I think it was, she was allowed to compete still, and she got popped the next year. But it was the first time I got it, how the clean athletes are getting totally screwed, you know, and it's because so many of the brands waited until Track and Field News and Mel Watman at Athletics Weekly put out their global rankings, you know, and until that was done, the kids weren't paid for the end of the year. And I'd get phone calls and texts, hey, Larry, what's the rankings right now? You know, and I had to, I would wait until, you know, we were able to get them out, you know, and it was a big deal. But I think that, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think that a federation official years ago, we were sitting in Europe after a meet, and I think there was probably a couple glasses of wine. And I asked him how he thought doping had gotten out of control. And he said to me that doping got out of control in the 70s because the global federations and the IOC did not believe it was that big of a thing. And you can understand the way it was then. I mean, I recall knowing guys who were running against me, running 840 for the steeplechase, who were taking anabolic steroids, and I didn't understand it. And I remember meeting a couple of my first British athletes. I was at Paul Davies Hale and, a really good steeplechaser at the time, about an 814 guy, Colin Reitz. And Colin was hysterical because I remember him, he had just run 813, and I congratulated him on it. And he said, yeah, he goes, if I ever learned how to hurdle, just think what I could do. And he was this tall, lanky guy, and he literally just had to walk over him. But Paul and him said, I was asking him, what's the difference? I said, why don't I believe that many Brits are using drugs? He goes, Larry, we have always had in athletics that it was about how fast you could move your body. And I remember telling my son that, I ran what I thought were some pretty quick times, but a lot of times I got lapped or, beat by all kinds of guys, but it was the fastest that I could go. And if my fastest mile was just say a 4:30 mile, but taking steroids, I could go 4:20. Is that really honest? I got to live with myself. Now, people who don't have that or see that as a business decision, that's a different thing. And what my friend with the federations told me was that in the 70s, federations ignored it. In the 80s, they kind of dealt with stuff. But when our Canadian friend Ben Johnson tested positive in 1988, Primo Nebbiolo reportedly was shocked at people's response. He just didn't get it. And because they knew that they knew that sprinters at the very least were using stuff, and so were throwers and others. And I remember the story about the 92 Olympics where the three Americans who medaled conveniently were on trains, so they never got drug tested after the medal ceremony. And I'm not accusing them of anything, but a couple of them did test positive. So those things, it was a different time. And I do think we're making a lot of progress. Yeah. However, this battle with Russia is huge. It's more than even we dealt with the Chinese. With Mao Yuren, the guy who gave the turtle soup to his women, he was using steroids, but they were small amounts. He was also taking women and making them run 150 miles a week, so they weren't having periods. So they were behaving like young men who before they had matured. But he wiped them out. After 3 years of running, they couldn't do anything anymore. And again, we've weaponized sports. I would love to see, we're never going to go back to a simpler time. Perhaps we can go to a safer time. And perhaps this story about Russia and the experience will help us think about what's really important in sport. So that's been a long-winded way of saying it, my friend. But I think that you and I both share that concern. We have Russian athletes we dearly love,
Yeah, absolutely. You just mentioned Zatopek. Can I just tell a quick Zatopek story?
Oh, yes.
Zatopek, as you know, was legendary for the amount of training he used to do. Mm-hmm. There's a story told that one day he went out on a run and took his dog with him.
Okay.
And the following morning, he was getting ready to go out again and called the dog, and the dog went and hid behind the couch.
Well, he told me a story that he was trying to build his lungs. And one of his coaches had said that he should hold his breath and see how long he could hold it for a count. Mm-hmm. So he would, when he would be coming back from the barracks, coming home to his lovely wife, he would be walking through the snow. And he would get down at the end of the block, and he started doing this for 500 meters. And he got to where he'd do it for 1,000 meters. And then his trick was to do it till he got up to the door. And a couple times he passed out. And the neighbors thought he had been drinking. And he laughed with me about it. He said, look, yeah, it helped build my lungs up. But he said, I would literally try to hold my breath until I passed out. So, it's the little things that people try to do that, and there's so many great stories about him. But and then we're to our place with COVID, and you guys are having a pretty tough time over there. I heard the Canucks today, the Canadians have said you guys can't land in Canada, and I know it's happening in Europe too. Where is this all going, my friend?
Well, there is a mutation which is spreading more quickly, and basically Christmas has been cancelled for a lot of people.
Wow.
I mean, the government said 10 days ago, you can have 5 days where you can mix with family. And then, when was it? It was this weekend, I think Saturday. The Prime Minister said, look, sorry, the numbers are all against us. You can only see people for 1 day. And that will normally be Christmas Day.
Yeah.
But if for any reason, you have to work on Christmas Day, then perhaps you can do it another day. But that was and we're now in a situation for France and about 40 other countries have closed the borders to us. So we have got, at the last count, about 300 large trucks at the docks at Dover trying to cross the France. They're now just sitting there. The drivers won't get back for Christmas. I mean, I am spending Christmas with my lovely wife. I'm not seeing any of my family other than possibly a walk with my son, his wife, and dog. Because at the moment, we could go and visit for 1 day, but it's being discouraged, and it is a risk. Our numbers are now up at, I think it's 65,000 who've died. I mean, I can remember when the chief medical officer said a good result would be 20,000 dying. And we all laughed at him, saying, how can that be good? My goodness me, we're at 65 and the numbers are rising. And we're expecting, the complication is that the 4 countries, England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, are all slightly different. But 2 of those have already announced a lockdown immediately after Christmas. And that's quite likely to happen with us. And I mean, you mentioned the US indoor championship. Well, now our indoor championship is in February in Glasgow. But at the moment, I would have think there must be a great chance of that just being cancelled. Because certainly at the moment, you couldn't hold it. And I mean, so many sports which are trying to go on are finding that they have to postpone games because players are testing positive. And of course, players have been practicing with other players. And then the whole team has to. So we're in a bad situation, and the good news is that we've already vaccinated 500,000 people.
Very good.
And hopefully by Easter, we will have vaccinated a lot of the population. But I mean, the experts are saying it's a race between us and the virus. Can we vaccinate quicker than the virus spreads?
In the U.S., we're at about 306,000 dead, and we're going to expect probably about 18,000 before the end of the year. President-elect Joe Biden just took the first shot today, and former Presidents Bush and Clinton are going to do it on live TV. And Vice President Pence has done it as well. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris is going to do it as well. But over here right now, it's somewhere hovering around 41% of Americans apparently will not take the vaccine. And I really have a hard time with it, as much as I had a hard time with the people who didn't want to wear a mask and while I still say you have in our Constitution, freedom of speech, also could be translated as freedom to not use critical thinking, and freedom to be stupid. And my mother banned that word "stupid" from my house when I was a kid. But I still think sometimes. But the way I try to do it is, if you're a Christian, Jew, Muslim, Hindu, all the faiths say love one another. If you're a humanist, it's all about whether you believe God exists or not. You believe that you should love other human beings. And if you are a patriot in your country, being patriotic has a lot of things. But I think that the general feeling that we were all raised with is trying to watch out for the other man or woman.
Yeah.
And wearing a mask, taking a vaccine, all those things matter. And I can understand, it's a challenge to me.
Yeah. I mean, is it okay if I come to your great country and drive on the left because I like driving on the left?
Yeah.
I mean, if you
it would be an issue.
If you say I can't, you're denying me my freedom. You're denying me my fundamental human rights.
Yeah, and that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, it's nonsense for people to say, you can't require me to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Well, the government makes rules, and our rules are you drive on the left and not on the right, yours are the other way around.
Yeah.
It's not something that each individual decides because of the dangers to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a problem with stuff on social media, which has been really it's beyond mischievous. I mean, I heard someone interviewed on television saying he would not be having the virus because of the chip the government has put in it. The government is putting a chip in the vaccine so that it knows all of what you're doing.
Yes, we've had that in the U.S. too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The funny one was a surgeon yesterday said, well, I just had Bill Gates' control chip inserted in me. But the thing that made me laugh and cry at the same time was a reporter went to a place in Georgia, and a woman said that she knows for a fact that in the vaccine there is a chip that's going to go in and control us. And I'm just kind of going, did you pass 8th grade or 4th grade, or did you take critical thinking in 5th grade? What is going on? And it's just, we had that vaccination issue. I think you guys had it too, because people thought for a while that vaccinations had something to do with autism. And I don't think the scientific community explained itself real well. And I do think that there's times, especially among African Americans, that they have a hard time trusting the medical community. But that's why so many of the leaders in the African American community, including Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, because I mispronounced her name, sorry about that. But why she is doing it on TV so people can see it. And I would love to see some athletes do it. I think those things, and there will be, because the thing about most of the athletes that we deal with, Stu, are just that they're really good people and they put things into their community. I can't think of how many we know that have started their own foundations, and they're modest, but they're doing things, and what kind of things they put back into the community, or how they fundraise. We just had someone over here help with someone's medical bills, and that stuff always touches me, and it makes me think that even if someone's making $1 gazillion, they do not have to be a jerk, and they can remember. I mean, you know who the country singer Dolly Parton is? You've heard her name? Okay, did you know that she gave $1 million to Vanderbilt University to help develop a COVID vaccine? She's done it twice now. And I just thought that was, and there was no press release that got out there. The university thanked her. I just think those things, especially in a holiday time when so many of us are missing our families, and we can only watch the Monaco meet so many times, Stuart. I think my limit's 9, and now I've got to watch Love Actually, and my favorite Christmas Carol with Alistair Sims from 1950, because if I don't see that, it's not Christmas, you know?
Right.
And it's so there's just little things that remind us. We got a few minutes left, and I wanted to throw something out. This just got into my head. Can you give me the name of an athlete that really inspires you? I know there's many, but just give us think about one for a minute. If you like, do you have one?
I've admired greatly Christian Taylor this year, the way he has sacrificed his own interests to fight for other athletes.
I like that too.
And put so much time into developing the Athletes Association. And I mean, actually, I read something where he said, actually, you know, I always advise people to make sure you get your rest, and I wasn't getting my rest because I was working so much to make this happen. And of course, I mean, with what he's achieved and with his contracts financially, he's all right. But he was working for the up-and-coming triple jumper, javelin thrower, etc., who was going to struggle to survive. Without the show being showcased in the Diamond Leagues, etc. So I think he's been very inspirational. And just one more I'll throw out. Shelley Ann Fraser-Price with her own foundation. You know, someone who says, "Look, I wouldn't have been able to go to college if people hadn't helped me because I was from a poor family." And so now now that I've been successful, I want to help some people to have the same opportunity that I had. Good on her.
No, I think
Rocket Foundation.
Yeah, I think those things are really, really tremendous. I like seeing people do selfless things. I thought this last weekend, if you understand how this marathon project thing came about, two people there, Ben Rosario and Josh Cox, he's an agent, put together the course, put together the event, and gave almost 100 athletes a chance to not only run fast, but to be able to pay their bills this year. And I thought that was good. I also thought that what Jesse Williams did with the recent event at the Sound Running track meet, where some kids, your British athlete Sam Aitken did so well in the 5 and the 10. If they wouldn't have had those opportunities, you know, and the thing is, the sporting things inspire us and take us a little farther than ourselves. And in this strange Christmas season, when so many of us are not going to see our families, and we've gone, you know, we've had the American holiday of Thanksgiving, and you know, I was alone. I wasn't able to spend time with family this time, and it'll be the same thing at Christmas. So, trying to grasp those and the significance, and be also thankful for what we have. I think that looking outside and knowing that we're all very lucky, and you and I get to talk about and write about a sport that somehow we make a living from occasionally. That is important to us, but brings joy to others. And I think that's the way that I want to end this one. We've got one more athletics chat for the year, but this is Athletics Chat 32, and I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas, Stuart, and you and your lovely wife enjoy the time. And I will be thinking about you that day, and then you and I will chat next Monday, and you can tell me, do you call him Saint Nick or do you call him Santa Claus?
Santa Claus.
Okay, so we'll see what Santa Claus brought you next Monday, okay? And
good.
Stuart, thank you. This is Larry Eder with Athletics Chat number 32 with Stuart Weir and Larry Eder. And if you like us, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you love us, subscribe on the YouTube. This is Larry Eder, RunBlogRun. Stay safe, exercise, hydrate, meditate, eat well, and tell someone each day that you love them. Okay? Hey, sports fans, Larry Eater, RunBlogRun. This is the epilogue, or Larry's monologue. This is for Athletics Chat number 32. 32. And Stuart was in lovely Oxford, England. He had his Father Christmas jacket on. And I must say, just a digression, if you need something to watch over the holidays, find the 1952 version of A Christmas Carol featuring Alistair Sims. Alistair is a fine British actor. The colorized version's okay. You need to watch it in black and white. You need to have an eggnog. And if you are into adult beverages, a little libation in there would be really good. And you need to watch it. That and It's a Wonderful Life, of course. I think Love Actually is good too. And Bad Santa. Yeah, well, if you're an adult, Bad Santa. Billy Bob Thornton is just one of those guilty pleasures. And again, a libation. Okay, probably something in a paper bag. But anyway, I've digressed. So today it's Athletics Chat 32 epilogue. So what do we talk about? Well, the announcement for the government in funding for UK sport. So the British government does something way different from the US. They fund sports over there to the tune of about, over 460 million US dollars and 29 million pounds sterling, which is about 42, goes to British athletics every 4 years. And that's averages out to about 40,000 tax-free for their 400 plus athletes. Plus they get medical and some other things. I think it's a great system. In the U.S. right now, I'm confused because I love USA Track and Field and the good people there, but they really just don't promote themselves. And so we don't know what they're doing for the athletes now, especially in this time of pandemic. And that, quite frankly, the most important events put on here were done by entrepreneurs. Now, the USATF Foundation was involved, but that's very different from USA Track and Field. And the USATF Foundation was involved not only in the marathon project, but they were also involved in Jesse Williams' track meet, which two of the just brilliant events, and that showed that, yes, you can do events even in a pandemic. I unfortunately was unable to go to either one in person. I am breaking out in hives because it's been almost 8 months since I've been to a real live event, and I'm getting a little frustrated, but I digress. So British funding of UK sport, fantastic. We'd love to see the US do that, but I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not sure the USOC wants to give up the control. The USOC makes a lot of money, but like the NCAA, does it really trickle down to the athletes? I'm not sure sometimes. Okay. Second thing, this last weekend was the Marathon Project. It was an event put on by Ben Rosario and manager Josh Cox, featured 40 men and 4 pacers and 48 women and 8 pacers. And brilliant performances. Martin Hay here won the men's race in 2:08:59. On the women's side, Sarah Hall ran 2:20:32. Brilliant events, brilliant races, great performances. I believe there was 9 athletes under 2 hours, 10 minutes on the men's side. And on the women's side, oh my gosh, the number of athletes under 2 hours 30 was just fantastic. But again, it was 2.1 miles, and then you ran about a 4.6 mile loop. I think it was 6 times. Pacing was good. Water stations were good. A couple of people out on the course sent me notes and said how cool the race was. And again, this allows these athletes to get paydays. An athlete going under 210 and most of the brands makes 25 to 30 grand. So pretty darn good. And that pays a few bills and takes care of Christmas. So congrats, Marathon Project. Our third thing, the indoor 2,000 meter steeplechase will be held on February 7th in, I believe, Germany. Is it Dortmund? It's not, it could be Dortmund. But Geza Felicitas Kraus, the 2018 European champion in the steeple and the 2019 bronze medalist in the world champs, will be competing. There's no water jump. but there are hurdles. It's exciting. People can fall. It's roller derby with hurdles. Okay, exciting, exciting, exciting. Be there, be there, be there. Mark Schnell. 3, Russian ban cut. So CAS cut back the Russian ban from 4 years to 2, which means that they'll be able to compete probably in Paris. No flags for World Cup, no flag for Tokyo Olympics. And the IOC is under a lot of pressure. They've got to try to get Russia back in. And CAS, I'm not sure what the hell CAS is doing. If I was anti-doping WADA, I would appeal this. I think this is crap. Here's the deal. Doping came out of Second World War. The Waffen-SS used it for their athletes. The U.S. used it for paraplegics and quadriplegics, and that's why so many of them survived. By 1948, bodybuilders in California were using it. And by the early 1950s, Soviet athletes were using it. And so were athletes in the West. So don't just, bum on the Soviet bloc. The Federation had no clue. It was all hush-hush in the 50s and 60s as well. And the Federation looked the other way. It wasn't until the late 70s that they got an inadequate system set up. In the 80s, it was the dirtiest decade in sports. 1988 Olympics was probably the dirtiest Olympics we've ever had. And athletes got off, samples weren't tested, athletes could pay for samples being tested. Every bit of deviancy and bacchanalian thing that you could think of happened. In the 90s, the Federation started developing some balls. And they by now, we're at a place with WADA and USADA, where I think they do a pretty good job. I think USADA does a better job than WADA. WADA is much more political. WADA is much more theatrical. And WADA, by being that, isn't doing their job. Their testing is down about 70% right now. So cheaters are out there and cheaters are using it. And that's why I question every performance under God right now. And even when I know the athletes, I have to, because a critical eye is really, really important right now. So the Russian ban needs to stand up. The Russians, I applaud World Athletics and SEBCO in keeping it tough on the Russians, because they need to, one, admit the misgivings, the misdeeds, find a way to stay around it and learn from it. And they need to be the poster child of, you do this, we're kicking your ass out of the sport. We've weaponized athletics with doping, and we need to change that. And it's got to be looking like a new weapon system. And if you don't get the business out of it, if you don't start charging the athletes $50,000 for every doping violation, and agents and managers, it's not going to stop. And I hate to take money out of people's pockets because I know how hard it is. But until you start charging $50,000 to $100,000 every time you get a 2-year ban or a 4-year ban, it's not going to go away. So COVID's getting worse in the UK. It's getting worse in the US. I'm in California now, heading back to Wisconsin, and I'll be self-quarantining for 2 weeks in Wisconsin. I'll have food shipped in, and I'll do my walks at night. You got to stay safe. You got to stay careful. Please stay safe, stay careful. Enjoy the holidays. Tell your friends that you love them. Do Zoom phone calls. That's what I'm doing with my family. But stay away from other people. If you're a Hindu, Muslim, Jew, Christian, humanist, they all say, take care of others, love one another. If you love one another, you'll do everything to take care of yourself, wear a mask. If you get the opportunity to get a vaccine, take the vaccine. We're not putting chips in you. It's just Bill Gates putting chips in you. I'm joking. But just know that your mind is to be used. It's a muscle. Critical thinking. If something is bullshit, it's bullshit. That's just the way it is. And there's a lot out there right now. And yes, you can use your brain to do it. Pretty much anything on Facebook should be suspect, or on social media. Anyway, okay. But I am a Martian, just so you guys know. Anyway, this is the end of the epilogue for Athletics Chat 32. This is Larry Eater with RunBlogRun. Thank you to Stuart Weir. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Just enjoy the winter solstice. If you like RunBlogRun, like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We need it, because the more eyeballs, we get paid a little bit better. And then if you really love us, subscribe on the YouTube. We've got close to 1,000 videos. Poor Mike Deering, I let out a couple times a day to walk his gerbils, and he is doing videos, producing videos the rest of the time, and watching, the Eastern Front shows on Prime. Anyway, Larry Eder saying goodbye, saying Merry Holidays, and stay safe. Okay?